I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not going your way.
One political concession.
Hey, get your fucking hand out of my face. God damn, he shattered his frame, dude. Oh my God. Look at his face. Look, he's so excited. He's like, oh, I got him. I told you. All right. Trump is back to money molestation, his favorite activity. It wasn't enough that he's molested the money through the Strait of Hormuz. He's going to molest the money directly. Trump is now molesting the European Union's money once again, announcing a 25% tariff on cars and trucks from the European Union. Let's get started.
The tariffs on cars coming in from the European Union because the European Union was not adhering to the trade deal we have. So based on that, now, when they build their plants, of which they're spending over $100 billion, all countries, not just the Union. When those plants open, there won't be any tariffs. But we raised the tariffs because they were not, as usual, they were not adhering to the agreement that we have. We have a trade deal with the European Union. They were not adhering to it. So I raised the tariffs on cars and trucks to 25%. That's billions of dollars coming into the United States, and it forces them to move their factory production much faster. We have right now in the United States over $100 billion of car plants being built. It's a record. We've never had anything like it. From all countries, Japan, South Korea, by the way, Canada, Mexico, they're all building plants in the United States. But the European Union was not adhering to the deal that we made. And we agree with that.
Yeah, Donald Trump came out and also admitted, I love these little media press tours that he does right before he gets on the helicopter with the loudest background noise possible, where he'll just say a bunch of unhinged things and then prop his big ass up on that helicopter and fly away. Okay? Here he is being asked about the Iran deal and saying that he's not satisfied with the Iran deal, which hasn't changed, by the way. This deal that he is currently unsatisfied with, ironically enough, is the exact deal that he agreed to approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's the same exact deal. It's the same exact 10-point deal that Iran presented by the second week of Operation Epstein's Fury. And it's really interesting to see him now go back on that after agreeing to it approximately 2 weeks ago. He's dissatisfied with the same deal that he said yes to.
Will Iran affect your China trip given the blockade?
No, the China, it's going to be amazing. The visit with China and Chairman Xi, that's going to be great. We have the trip with China coming up, and I think it'll be an amazing event.
The trip with China is not going to be amazing because, as I talked to Trita Parsi about this as well, as I've explained to you over and over again, Donald Trump was supposed to go to China and have tremendous leverage. He had Venezuela. He was able to forcibly decouple Venezuela from China. Venezuela is Chinese entrance into the Latin American marketplace. And it was a stronghold for Chinese influence in South America. And Donald Trump was able to do the Maduro kidnapping operation. It was successful by his own estimations, of course, even though it was obviously unjust and totally ridiculous. You can't just kidnap and depose the leader of a sovereign nation state, but America gets to do that, and the entirety of the European Union was in agreement with this decision, not realizing what that says about international law. But he thought he could do the same thing with Iran. But of course, he failed to do so. Maybe it was partially because of bad intelligence that he got from the Israeli side. Maybe it was his own personal hubris. Maybe it was because he felt that he could have a string of successes here going into the China negotiations, going into the Beijing summit. He thought he would have not one, but two major victories. And now that the Iranian quagmire has exploded in his face, he's having a very different Beijing summit, potentially. One where America's force projection capabilities have diminished around the world. One where undoubtedly he will have to concede to a lot of Chinese demands if the summit happens at all. We don't know if the summit will take place. Part of the reason why is because, as I said, he hasn't been able to wrap up this Iran situation. And there's really no way for him to wrap up this Iran situation without America taking significant L's. What do I mean by this? It's obvious that we are not capable of militarily forcing Iran to submit. In the aftermath of the second instance of perfidy, where America and Israel started bombing Iran and assassinated its entire leadership, the IRGC leadership that existed, the Ayatollah, and many in the civilian leadership, Iran came out of that process 50 days later with more leverage than they had prior to the negotiations process. They now control the Strait of Hormuz. They have now shown the world that America is maybe a little bit of a paper tiger. America doesn't have the capabilities of forcing Iran to submit militarily. And Iran is a much poorer country than China. Iran doesn't have the robust manufacturing base that China has. Iran doesn't have the same international levers to pull that China can pull. And yet America still was not able to force Iran to submit. And not only were they not able to force Iran to submit, they also gave Iran more leverage, control over the Strait of Hormuz, this key choke point that is responsible for transiting 20% of the entire world's energy supply. That's a spectacular flub regardless. In the process, America lost billions of dollars of assets in the region. America showed its regional partners that its security commitments are to Israel and Israel only and no one else, and that they are completely incapable of even defending their own military bases and their own assets in these regions. And they're certainly not even capable of defending the other industrial assets that are also in these regions that are owned in many instances by American companies anyway. So you now have to either submit to Iran's demands, which I suspect Trump would do if he was a little bit reasonable here, before going to the Beijing summit, or you continue this weird limbo where is the Strait of Hormuz open? Will it stay closed? How will it be closed? Is America still going to enforce a naval blockade? There's a lot of these questions, and these questions are not good for the energy markets. These questions are not good for tankers of oil transiting through the Strait of Hormuz and going to the Asian markets in general. These guys are screaming bloody murder at this point. They've dug deep into their reserves. There's diminished economic activity in the manufacturing base of the entire planet, because that's what the Asian markets are, right? We're not entirely removed here in the United States of America from the rest of the globe. This is the design of global capitalism. If things are harder to produce or more costly to produce or can't even be produced in places like Vietnam, South Korea, China, Bangladesh, India, then there's going to be an inflationary impact in the United States of America and the Western markets as well, right? All of the components are made there, even if they're assembled in the United States of America, for example. So there is a domestic crisis that's brewing, a domestic inflation crisis that's brewing, and Donald Trump is incapable of addressing it, doesn't even want to think about it, doesn't even want to talk about it. All he wants to talk about is his stupid fucking ballroom. Americans are frustrated. American hegemony has been threatened, and there's no way out of this. The only thing that Trump can do is either de-escalate or escalate, right? If he de-escalates, that's taking a major L. That's taking an L that is unambiguous, right? Everyone understands that the American side lost this battle because their opposition gained more leverage in the process, have more control, and can force America, this hegemon, to do their bidding for once. So that's a huge and unambiguous defeat for the United States of America. That is if he de-escalates, which is the best possible option here. If he goes up the escalation ladder, what can he do? Obviously, the maximum escalation would be the deployment of nuclear arms. He can't do that. This will change the dynamic of the planet. The other thing he could potentially do is invade militarily. But once again, Iran is a gigantic country. 93 million people live there. Its topography has created this mountainous fortress, right? It's a natural fortress surrounded on all sides by mountains with a not insignificant number of conventional forces as well. This would be unbelievably devastating. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Western military forces dying in the process. And even if they did succeed, you would destabilize this country with 93 million people. There's no real guarantee of military success there either. So obviously, even the escalation on the American side would yield even further death and destruction, and perhaps the death of American empire. It'd be the final nail in the coffin. So the reasonable choice to make here is de-escalation, which is, again, an unambiguous, recognized defeat. So what do? Well, therein lies the problem. That's precisely the reason why Donald Trump is stuck in this limbo, doing increasingly dumber things. You're wrong about the U.S. literally doesn't have the military to invade. The size and complexity of such an operation would rival D-Day. We have 5,000 amphibious troops, not 500,000, which we need. No, I know. I don't even think that the United States of America would be able to militarily invade Iran without either developing a coalition of the willing, which is not going to happen. And even then, I don't even think they'd have enough numbers of troops to amass to successfully pull off any sort of ground invasion of Iran or an amphibious one. But outside of that, you would have to literally reinstitute the draft. And I think that would be bedlam. I don't think Americans are excited at the prospect of waging war against Iran, especially at this stage when there's really nothing to look forward to anyway. And there's no real reason to wage war with Iran. And most Americans would look at this and go, yeah, no, this is because of Israel. I'm not going to die for Israel. Get the fuck out of here. Send Israeli troops there if you want, which we all know is not going to happen.
Mr. President, if you can't get a deal on Iran, what next? What will you do?
Well, right now we have negotiations going on. They're not getting there. They are very disjointed. They're extremely disjointed. They're not able to get along with each other as leaders. They don't know who the leader is. Their military has been defeated. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to build back that country. But we're not satisfied at this moment.
I've never paid this much for gas in my entire life.
This morning, the ongoing war in Iran pushing gas prices to levels not seen in years, and experts say it could go much higher.
Sheesh. I mean, that's California, baby. You know, that's is how it is. But even this conversation is a little silly, where it's like Americans only care about what happens to their wallets, right? Like we just don't even care. We don't care about anything. It's crazy.
Drivers are now paying an average of $4.41 a gallon, up from just under $3 at the start of the war. Americans across the country feeling the impacts.
I cut down on groceries a little bit. Yeah, because gas is just more of an expense now. I used to not think about it.
I choose not to drive as much. You know, it's costly. So I usually take my scooter, take public transportation.
Diesel fuel used by trucks to move goods across the country now averaging nearly $5.50 a gallon. Experts say this could drive up the cost of everyday items as Americans continue to grapple with inflation. Roughly 20 million barrels of oil pass through the Strait of Hormuz every day, and with the waterway still shut down, oil hit a wartime peak Thursday of more than $126 a barrel.
If the Strait of Hormuz continues to be blocked or significantly impeded, we could see the national average pushing closer to $4.75 or even that $5 a gallon mark by Memorial Day.
The nation's highest prices are in California, where gas now averages $6 a gallon and even more at some stations.
I'm not spending anything else on anything. It's all going to gas.
The president predicting relief will come once the war ends.
Gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock.
But analysts say that could take some time.
We are getting into territory where even if the strait does reopen, it could be beyond a year for gas prices to fully normalize back to their pre-war levels.
In some areas, public transit systems are reporting an uptick in bus ridership as drivers look for a way to cut costs.
It was was in the early hours of February 28th when the U.S. and Israel launched massive strikes on Iran. But now, 60 days later, the law that allows U.S. presidents to conduct military operations.
Yeah, I mean, the law is worth nothing. The paper that's written on is basically toilet paper, okay? Let's be real. Donald Trump has shown one very important reality to everyone that's paying attention. Many people aren't, but to those who are paying attention, we now know none of this stuff matters, okay? The law doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if you are going to hold the president accountable, if you're gonna make a big fuss about it. And it seems for many Democrats as well, as the entirety of the Republican Party, they don't care about any of these laws. The presidents in the past have also ignored the war powers resolutions, and I'm not shocked that Trump is doing the same. It's just an illusion. That's all it is.
Without congressional authorization.
Constitution has never been more fake than it's been today.
On Capitol Hill, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insisting the ceasefire the president declared in early April allows them to continue operations without authorization.
We are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops in a ceasefire. So you're not in. Yeah. It's our understanding, just so you know.
Okay, well, I do not believe the statute would support that.
Some in the president's own party even losing patience. Republican Senator Susan Collins saying in a statement that deadline is not a suggestion. It is a requirement, adding the president's authority as commander-in-chief is not without limits. The Constitution gives Congress an essential role in decisions of war and peace. And Democrats questioning whether or not Hegseth is giving the president a complete picture of the conflict.
Mr. Secretary, I am concerned that you have been telling the president what he wants to hear instead of what he needs to hear.
Hegseth lashing out.
We are 2 months into a historic military success in Iran, and you want to call it a defeat.
But the American public is not convinced. This morning, a new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll shows only 19% believe U.S. actions in Iran this year have been successful. And about 61% say that using U.S. military force in Iran was a mistake, while just over 1/3 say it was the right decision. And our new poll also showing that Americans are not confident that even if the administration secured an agreement with Iran, it would actually prevent it from developing a nuclear weapon. And as for that 60-day deadline, a senior administration official doubling down on what Hegseth said, insisting that the April 7th ceasefire has paused the clock. But our military is conducting a blockade of Iranian oil, and a blockade is considered an act of war under international law. George?
Martha Raddatz, thanks.
This is a war of aggression.
What is international law? Who's enforcing international law?
Okay, this was great, okay? This is a great moment. We're obviously going to be watching this. Many of you already probably saw it. It's an incredibly satisfying moment where Adam Mockler, also known as Adam Mocklib, also known as Adam Mogler, actually pulled out the Mogler today. He busted out the piece. He put, some might even say, ass the belt. Respect to Adam. Although he routinely aligns himself with Sex Pestany, which is his biggest L of all time. You know, you got to give credit where credit is due. This was fantastic to watch. All right, let's go.
Who is the aggressor here?
Us. We are the aggressor.
Can you name a single political concession we've gotten from them? Anything at all?
Or are you talking to
any political concession? Because you can't name one.
So here's.
Did I say ass to belt? I meant belt to ass. He put belt to ass. God damn it. He put ass to belt, but then also belt to ass.
Here's what we're doing.
No political concessions.
When you get up past your bedtime, you get hyper. Here's the deal.
We are.
You call piracy in like if words don't have any meaning, but like we have sanctions against these vessels. And
name one political concession. Name one political concession.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Tonight, a new question. Just how popular is this war with Iran? President Trump says that the war with Iran could take days at first if he wanted to, but then he said it would be weeks. And now he says that now that it's carried into its third month, despite higher gas prices at home and plummeting polls at home as well, Pete Hegseth is saying that America is right behind the president.
When I talk to Americans, and especially when I talk to the troops, They are grateful for a president who has the courage to take on this threat after 47 years of what Iran has done, targeting and killing Americans.
What I'm concerned about is we are not safer, and I would just like to know why you have not sought the support of the American people, and 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war today.
I believe we do have the support of the American people, and we have briefed regularly what this mission looks like and why it's critically important that we undertake it.
You don't care whether
When
the American people support this war.
The American people are quite smart. They understand and see through spin. They know that a regime that says death to America, that seeks nuclear weapons.
You're a bitch. You're a bitch. Plenty of countries have people that say things about the United States of America. We're the #1 superpower on the planet. Okay, you're a bitch. This is bitch made, straight up. Burning billions of dollars of assets, putting American lives at risk. Why? Because people said mean words about America. Shut up. Shut up. That's totally ridiculous. Okay. Oh my God, I can't believe they say death to America, death to Israel. Oh no. Oh no. What are we gonna do? Like, what are you talking about? What matters most in this circumstance is whether the Iranian government has actually ever presented a significant threat to the United States of America. And the reality is, no, they have not. We have had moments of diplomacy with Iran, and that have been unbelievably effective. Those moments have been unbelievably effective, far more effective than what Trump is trying to do right now, as he is, engaging in his favorite act of money molestation. Oh, they say death to America, so we have to, do what? Get our asses handed to us? Show the world that we don't have that smoke. Show the world that we don't have the military capability to defend our allies, our security commitments. Burn billions of dollars of assets in the region at the behest of Israel. What kind of silly argument is this? They have nothing. They have nothing. This is not a media spin. Kirsten Gillibrand, despite being a vicious Islamophobe, who I will never forgive her for saying the things that she said about Zohran Mamdani, is correct in this moment. If there's a cost-benefit analysis that's supposed to be made in this circumstance where it's like, was it worth it? It's not. And Americans are obviously aware that it's not worth it, even with our lack of interest in the human death toll that we commit overseas. We don't care about the destabilizing impact of our actions. We don't care about what we do to other countries, but we do care about how this impacts us. And it's clear that the overwhelming majority of Americans, 60% of Americans, think this war was not worth it. Why are we doing it? And they came to that conclusion at a rapid pace. For those of you asking what Kirsten Gillibrand said about Zohran Mamdani, she called him a jihadist, an Islamist jihadist, after he won the primary.
And the ability to deliver. Did they lie about the range of their missiles?
Yeah, Pete Hegseth wasn't acting macho. He was playing a macho person on TV. He is not actually macho. We are dealing with a war that is failing on a daily basis as Donald Trump has taken
his machismo.
Because he was performing. It was a performance for Donald Trump.
Didn't you know?
I was wondering. It's a performance for Donald Trump.
You're out there pumping up.
Donald Trump is very impressive. He's taken his 2 largest campaign promises, no new wars and lower prices, ending inflation, and he's messed both of them up. He started a new war that spiked inflation, and now this war is actively failing. An interesting statistic is that Americans have spent collectively $23 billion extra dollars on the gas pump, and that's money that could have gone towards daycare, towards childcare. We'll sit here and you'll laugh at Americans spending money, but the reality is we are failing this war. The purpose of a war is to extract political concessions from the enemy. Can you name a single political concession we've gotten from them? Anything at all?
Oh, are you talking to me?
Any political concession? Because you can't name one.
So here's what we're doing.
No political concessions.
When you get up past your bedtime, you get hyper. Here's the deal. We have a clear issue here.
You're shaking, bro.
We have a clear issue here. No.
Scott Jennings' entire job is to antagonize and annoy people on these panels. He bullies them with regular frequency. I have noticed that he does this a lot more frequently to the female panelists, to black and brown panelists as well. Okay? So when you got a white boy sitting next to him who actually fights back, all of a sudden, it's unacceptable. His entire job is to rage bait the people on these panels. He gets paid unbelievable amounts of money, okay? Large sums of cash to do that, to eat Trump's dick on a daily basis on CNN panels and rage bait people. He is an incredibly insincere person. So the one time where someone actually pushes back and rage baits back at him, he loses control of the conversation and he snaps. But yeah, it was hilarious to watch regardless. So shouts out to Adam Mocklip for putting belt to ass.
Nuclear weapons for the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Period. Full stop. The president believes, and he may be right. I spoke to a retired Rear Admiral today, Mark Montgomery, who's at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. They think the
Foundation for Defense of Democracies, FDD, is Benjamin Netanyahu's own personal cutout think tank. Remember, you know this already. He can get away with saying that at this panel, potentially. Many people are not going to push back on him for saying that. But the immediate response to that would be like, oh, so you talked to one of the most loyal servants of Israel to offer you what, more analysis? You and Trump have that in common. And look what that got us when Trump listens to the Foundation for Defending Democracy. Look at the situation we're in now.
Blockade is actually more effective than the military campaign. And a little patience on the blockade here, where we cripple the Iranian economy, where we kill their currency, which is happening as we speak, where we put pressure on China because they need to get their oil flowing again. A little bit of patience right here, not bombs, but patience on a naval blockade, could get the outcome you want, which is no nuclear weapons for the largest state sponsor of terror.
You've been saying this for 8 weeks, and we are now past the 4 to 6 week deadline. Where is the enriched uranium right now?
It's under rubble.
Where is it right now? In the United States or Iran? Iran still has the enriched uranium. They still have the scientists scattered across their country, and they have all of the blueprints in the cloud. You can sit there and act confused, but you can't name a single political concession that we got from Iran.
It's not over yet.
Okay, but also on that fact, why are we talking about the strategy of this? This isn't a legal war. This is terror.
Kat is right, by the way. Kat cooks a little bit here, too, where she goes, this is illegal. Like, see, in many circumstances, the back and forth is limited to, oh, this is not strategically viable. This is strategically viable from an America First perspective, all this stuff. Where Kat expands that conversation all of a sudden to the impact that it's having around the globe, the impact that it's having in terms of the violations of international law, the impact that it's having in Iran. These are important considerations to make, and yet, in most circumstances, it's outside of the neat confines of permissible conversations to have on mainstream news. So I'm glad that Kat is expanding on that.
Terrorism, we are turning our military into pirates. We are seizing civilian vessels. Additionally,
sanctioned Iranian vessels that have gone through a DOJ process.
We are.
You call piracy in like if words.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, so we decide. Yeah, it's not piracy if we decide that this is illegal. Got it. Okay. So the problem with the other pirates is that they decided, but when they decide it's illegal for vessels to transit and seize those ships, then it's not piracy either. What's the difference? This is what I mean. This is chauvinism. Okay, this is American chauvinism. This is Western chauvinism. It's the notion that we decided, not the international community, mind you. It's not the international community that decided that these vessels are illegally shipping and selling oil to other countries. We did. And we control all of the seas. Okay? That's a ridiculous argument to make. What do you mean we decided? Okay, Trump decided. Okay, the Treasury Department decided. Do you know how easy it is to get a sanction on a company? You just literally write to the Treasury. If you know enough people that work there, you can just get a sanction written off and render this company illegal, okay? And then we just go there and we take over the ships? This is how it works? Why do we decide? Does the international community have no say? You can't have it both ways, right? You can't, on the one hand, say that America defends international law and free commerce around the globe, and then simultaneously justify piracy this way by saying, well, we decided. Well, guess what? Iran decided the Strait of Hormuz is closed and that they are going to operate a toll. What now? The law of the jungle only works if there's one hegemonic power that is choosing to write the rules and violate them as they see fit, and there's no one who can oppose the hegemonic power. If there are other great powers around the world like China or even Russia, and now seemingly Iran, which is a regional power, that is going to fight back and militarily take advantage of the lack of international law or take advantage of the new reality that we've designed where, might makes right, if they have enough might, seemingly they can cripple the global energy markets. That's why we're in this problem to begin with. So do we go back to stability? Do we go back to actually caring about international law by force? because Iran is forcing our hand to do so? Or do we lean in further and further and refuse to make concessions? It's only piracy when they do it. It's not piracy when we do it. We have a legal process. It doesn't mean anything. The legal process doesn't mean anything. The internal decisions that we are making have no basis on international law. Okay? That's not how this works. And the only reason that is how it worked for the longest time is because no one else opposed us. You sound just like the NATO Andes. Iran is no longer a regional player. What? Iran, I don't think Iran is a global superpower. I don't think I think it's ridiculous to say that Iran is a global power. Iran has the capacity to enforce its power or project its power to the rest of the globe. This is real. It's happening right now. But that doesn't mean that it is a global superpower or a global power at all. It is a regional power. It can become a global power one day. Okay? But as it stands, it is a regional power. I think that's a fair assessment to make.
Don't have any meaning, but like we have sanctions against these vessels, and the EU has sanctions against these vessels. In some cases, the UN has sanctions.
But one of the most egregious aspects of this,
guys, a global power has the capacity to project its power around the globe. Okay, Russia at least has AFRICOM, right? Like they have the Africa Corp, the Wagner units in different places, right? China has the capacity, doesn't ever really enforce it, but has the capacity to make international decisions. Iran does not. Iran controls a strategic choke point, which can have global impact. But as it stands currently, they are capable of controlling this regional choke point through asymmetric warfare. This is global power projection to a certain degree, but regional powers can have global impact if they choose to enforce it, if they have the military might to enforce it.
is the white Christian nationalist twist that Pete Hegseth has added onto this talk, saying that this conflict that we started, that we have sacrificed our own service members for, is ordained by God. Is bombing a school full of schoolgirls ordained by God? Is our prices going up and us not being able to afford an ambulance, we call an Uber instead? Is that ordained by God?
In 1983, I was in Beirut when the Marine Corps barracks was blown up by a suicide bomber sponsored by the Iranians.
Yeah, why'd that happen? Why'd that happen, Geraldo? Did that happen out of nowhere? Was it a they hate us because they ain't us moment? Why did that happen? Again, why did that happen? Also, if you have to go all the way back to 1983 to talk about like secondary, like to talk about Iranian influence, not even like a direct act of violence that was determined by Iran or conducted by Iran, but instead a group that got logistical support from the Iranian government conducting an act of what you call is an act of terror against military barracks, by the way, then it doesn't seem like there's an imminent threat, is there? Now, this is one of the major reasons why I think a lot of people in both mainstream news and also in the Democratic Party and certainly the entirety of the Republican Party perceive me as a threat, because I say, like, what do you think? Is there a cause and effect here? Why did that happen? First of all, calling it an act of terror on a military barracks is once again, really playing fast and loose with terrorism in general. Is it a military target or is it a civilian target? It's like saying, oh, my poor baby was kidnapped from his IDF tank. You can't kidnap someone from a tank, okay? You can kidnap someone from their home. You can kidnap a civilian. You can take a hostage if it's a civilian. But if it's a uniformed military member conducting an act of violence inside of a $30 or $10 million Merkava tank, however much it costs, I don't remember, then that's not a kidnapping. That's taking a prisoner of war. If you're talking about military barracks being bombed, that's not an act of terror. That's an act of war. Okay, that's an act of resistance against a military unit that is participating in acts of violence against, ironically enough, civilians, which of course is going to invite response, militant response. Those acts came after the Israeli occupation and acts of violence from the American military.
230 Marines died.
That's awful. That's terrible. But that is not. It's
they
not
also
1983.
took out a couple of dozen at the.
Yeah, it's not 1983. So the imminence has gone away. If you have to go all the way back to 1983 and to say, well, it was, an Iranian-backed instance of violence, think about all of the American acts of violence in the region against Iran over and over again. The Iran-Iraq war was American-backed violence against the state of Iran. That came after the 1983 barracks bombing. The American global war on terror was a direct act of violence against every other country in the region, right?
U.S. Embassy.
Geraldo, we
downtown
murdered an
Beirut.
entire
No, I mean,
school
but
of children.
You can't make
2 of them.
You can't make.
Yeah, America blew up an airplane with civilians and never apologized for it. I mean, it's unbelievable. The things that we've done to the Iranian people, the things that we've done to the people of Iraq, the things that we've done to the Shia population in Lebanon, in Iraq as well, and now in Iran too, directly, and also indirectly with our loyal servants in the region is unbelievable. Of course they say death to America. What matters not is what Iran's government says. What matters is what Iran's government does. And the Iranian government, time and time again, has not only cooperated with the United States of America in its global war on terror, ironically enough, going after Daesh, Al-Qaeda, and numerous other Salafist jihadist groups that America was tasked with taking care of, dealing, or maybe even using as a reason to invade these countries militarily. Iran was always on America's side in those endeavors, ironically enough. Iran has also consistently tried to negotiate with the United States of America, engage in diplomacy with the United States of America time and time again, to a degree that I would consider to be naive. And we still say 47 years of imminent grave threats from Iran. We are the threat to Iran, and yet they've still chosen to try to deal with us through the negotiations process, try to deal with us through diplomacy. Saying this is not a defense of the IRGC, or saying this is not a defense of the Iranian form of governance, okay? Just so you understand, just so we're clear. Saying this is just a defense of the truth. It's just the truth. I'm just delivering to you the facts. If that leads you to think maybe I was wrong about my assessment on Iran, maybe we are the destabilizing factor here, maybe Israel is the destabilizing factor here, then, guess what? You are now capable of thinking critically on these issues and not just mainlining pro-American propaganda and deluding yourself into thinking that we have to consistently wage these destabilizing wars of choice, okay? But that, once again, is the real threat. They don't want you to hear these sorts of things. They don't want you to hear this perspective that is not even an alternative perspective, but just a accurate assessment of the things that have taken place. They want you to be propagandized and sedated. They want you to either not think about all of the things that we're doing over there, or they want you to think that it's just. We're doing it for some good purpose, for some just cause. America engages in unbelievable acts of violence, but we're the world's police at the end of the day, and we have to do it because why? Because our enemies are barbaric monsters. They're Islamist fundamentalists. They're crazy. They can't be reasoned with. They only understand violence. They're a violent people, right? And that's the racism. That's the racism that is necessary. That's the Islamophobia that's necessary for you to get on board with these sorts of actions. That's the dehumanization that you have to embed in your mind so that you can feel a little bit more comfortable even if you do pay attention to what we're doing over there. Okay?
Them, suddenly a victim.
Okay, the real question is, what have we gotten for this war?
I actually think the school children are victims. I think the civilians that are dead are victims.
Yeah, I do. But
Yes.
hold on, I do think.
School children are victims, but so are the Marines. I mean, under international law, there is a distinction between school children going to school and getting blown up and killed in the process versus Marines that are sitting inside of a Marine barracks in a totally separate foreign country that has its own paramilitary formation born out of necessity because of the invasion that's taking place, because of the occupation that's taking place, that ends up engaging in a militant response against the allied forces of a foreign occupant. And even then, that's in 1983. What are we talking about? You're going back to 43 years ago and rerunning the propaganda from that point in time to justify the new versions of violence that we're committing directly against the Iranian population.
To be clear, I mean, obviously, Marines being killed is terrible. School children being killed is terrible. But there's a big difference between Iran willfully bombing U.S. military targets and the United States bombing a school.
Why don't you ever go on these? They don't invite me to go on these. And I do think that it would be somewhat controversial for Abby Phillips to have me on one of these, especially because this is like the premier debate show that they have on. And Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are two of the biggest anchors on the network. And they obviously have made it clear that they find me to be a dangerous radical.
And then not acknowledging it, which is its own separate problem. But the school children are civilians. They're civilians point blank. They should never be targeted. We are, according to some people, already at the 60-day mark of this war. And technically, they're supposed to come to Congress on it. Pete Hegseth was questioned about this today. Listen to this.
The War Powers Resolution specifies that a war initiated by a president without congressional approval must be concluded within 60 days.
Ultimately, I would defer to the White House and White House counsel on that. However, we are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops in a ceasefire. So you're not in. Yeah. It's our understanding, just so you know.
Okay, well, I do not believe the statute would support that.
I mean, that was essentially how the Obama administration interpreted the statute.
And Republicans disagreed with it at the time.
100%. I think it would be cleaner.
So just to be clear, yeah.
It'd be a good act of constitutional hygiene, and it's not you need to conclude within 60 days. You need to conclude or have authorization from Congress within 60 days.
Exactly. So they could come to Congress and get authorization. Why not?
Or they could challenge the statute, which, as somebody who has either sponsored legislation to repeal or reform every extant authorization for the use of military force and to reform war powers more broadly, I also have to confess the War Powers Act of 1974, the constitutional underpinnings of that are shaky. It may not hold up.
Maybe so,
does.
but it's
the
law of the land, and it has not been.
Congress has the power of the purse, and this is the reality: is that if Congress continues to authorize the Department of War, if they continue to pass the National Defense Appropriations Act, they continue to do that. That will
They're not going to shoot down the Defense Act on the basis of a war that Donald Trump is starting. Why would we shoot down all of our defense?
The National Defense Act.
The
National Defense Act comes up once a year. I think it's probably this year. It's usually toward the end of the year.
They also are requesting a supplemental.
Right, they're requesting a supplemental, but they haven't actually done that fully yet. And I do think it raises the question, do they just get to pause this thing whenever they feel like it, even though there is an active blockade? And a blockade involves the U.S. military threatening with force that if any
act of war.
Yeah, it is considered an act of war. So how does that not count?
I think that interpretation, however, is subject to reasonable.
Really? I mean, these guys are supposed to be more reasonable than Trump, right? And it's so interesting that their arguments basically reduced to exactly what Trump is saying and doing. Like everyone turns into Trump when they want to defend Trump's actions. If Trump's actions are in line with the American military-industrial complex, then, it's ultimately somewhat reasonable. I mean, I guess, we just don't like the way he's talking. We don't like the way he speaks on these issues, but, what he's doing, we do like. We appreciate. There's two parties, but there's only one foreign policy. You're right, Chatter.
Acceptance, interpretation. If indeed there is a ceasefire, don't you want to encourage the ceasefire? Don't you want to encourage this peace?
Yeah, but there's also a naval blockade, which is by definition not a ceasefire.
But also,
still in war.
We're talking legalities when it comes to war powers and all this. This is bird law, right? It is not governed by reason. You can't give. No, it's always some
What do you mean?
Fans here. Come on,
can I just take it back?
Wait. What do you mean by bird law?
I mean when we try to apply normal rhetoric, normal logic, normal dictionary definitions,
as we do in a democracy. We're not Iran. We don't get to just ignore the law.
The international legal repercussions,
right? If we're talking about that, what international legal repercussions?
This is a war.
Again, we're not Iran. We don't get to deny international law. It's really interesting. Once again, this is supposed to be the critical take, right? The critical approach to Donald Trump's assessment here. Iran, between the United States of America and Iran, and this is going to be, again, something that might shock the conscience of many people, okay? Many Americans. Iran is the stable actor here. Everything that Iran is engaged in, it's engaged in an act of self-defense. Iran has followed America and Israel up the escalation ladder. Iran has not instigated anything. America has. The only thing Iran has instigated is negotiations, which America has now twice taken advantage of to attack Iran. So no, we aren't like Iranians in this sense, because Iran is actually a stable actor. Iran is a regional actor. Iran has well-defined goals, one of which is obviously maintaining sovereignty. This is a perfectly understandable goal for any state. So no, we're not like Iran at all because we're the ones who are violating international law over and over again. But because international law is designed almost entirely by the West, a concept that the West and the most powerful Western country, the United States of America, has utilized to bully other countries, smaller nations in the periphery over and over again, that we don't even have that understanding where we're like, what do you mean? We're not like Iran. We're not going to violate international law. We have been. And we've certainly done that here in broad daylight, in the most flagrant manner.
What is international law? Who's enforcing international law?
Who is the aggressor here?
Us. We are the aggressor.
Against
we launched
Iran?
this war.
By the way, she's 100% right. And it's so funny to see a panel comprised of not one, not two, but three conservatives, right? You have former Republican from Michigan, former Republican congressperson from Michigan sitting right next to Kat. On the other side, you have Geraldo Rivera, Fox News anchor, again, Republican, lifelong Republican, okay? And then you have Scott Jennings, again, pro-Trump stooge. So there's varying degrees of like conservatism being demonstrated on the panel. And Abby Phillips is supposed to be the unbiased liberal voice, right? And even then, she has these similar implicit biases, these similar hangups when it comes to international law and when it comes to foreign adversaries. And I guess you have Mockler, who I don't know what his assessment is ultimately. He hasn't really said too much yet, and he's going to start popping off here in a second. But Kat Abu-Ghazaleh is the lone voice of truth on this panel. It's unbelievable that you can have one person say the correct things, say the objective truth on this panel, but because everyone's understanding is that America's always good and all of our enemies are always bad, it's met with unbelievable resistance. Geraldo is not a lifelong Republican. He was once a young lord. Okay, I apologize. Geraldo, as a Fox News commentator, has become a long-standing Republican commentary person, right? Is that appropriate? Can I say that? Geraldo's job is to be the reasonable Republican, the voice of reason, but he's still a conservative.
War. Yes.
Okay.
Just because Iran exists.
Did all of U.S. history exist before the last 8 weeks to you, or just 8 weeks?
It did. It did. It certainly did. Like with Juan Gonzalez. Yes, Juan Gonzalez obviously is not a conservative, though. I'm just...
On February 28th.
Listen, we all know...
I mean, honestly...
What the hell is a young lord? Young lords are a political organization that was Latino, that was basically the Black Panther Party, but for Latinos, okay? Juan Gonzalez is one of the founders, my goat, who's on Democracy Now!, and they're a great movement. But just like with the Black Panther Party, obviously there are people who then, turned conservative or turned into neoliberals. Like that's just what happens. Okay?
They have been at war with us.
Yeah, Puerto Ricans.
For 47
We all
years.
know that Scott Jennings is more than happy to defend a war with a country that starts with the letters IRA that we are currently failing, that is going to put us trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat? Is that
Homie,
what you
I
have?
debated you on
Okay.
TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not
Can you
going your
name
way.
one political
Get your
concession.
fucking hand out of my face.
Hey, get your fucking hand out of my face. God damn, he shattered his frame, dude. Oh my God. Look at his face. Look, he's so excited. He's like, oh, I got him.
Political concession.
Whoa, guys,
Honestly, I'm not
excuse me.
going
Hold
to
on.
have this guy's hand
Everybody,
in my face.
everybody,
You're a baby. You're a baby, Scott. You're a baby. Frame mocked. One frame. Frame destroyed. Adam Mogler comes out, takes the W here. Unbelievably satisfying moment, okay? Scott Jennings' entire job is to antagonize everyone on that panel, bully them, okay? Yell at them and say heinous things. All of a sudden, when you get a little bit of pushback, boom.
Not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not
Can you
going your
name
way.
one political
Get your
concession.
fucking hand out of my
Name
face
one political
first.
concession.
You're a whole ass adult, man. Adam is basically a child. He's like, what, 20, 22, 23 years old? You've been a professional pundit for as long as Adam has been alive. And you're out here losing your dang mind. Tremendous spike in cortisol levels here in real time. Exceptional.
Hey, whoa, guys,
Honestly, I'm not
excuse me.
going to have this guy's hand
Everybody,
in my face.
everybody, hang tight.
Yeah, and then he cries to the referee. Mods, Do you see the act of violence that this young boy, 40 years younger than me, is engaging in, or 30 years younger than me is engaging in? Did you see that violence? He violently gestured in my direction. Mods.
Okay. No, everybody calm down, okay? We're having a debate. You can respond to the points that he's making.
Can you name a political concession that we've got?
I just had a flashback to the war the skinheads had in my studio.
I would be mad if I had to defend wars too. I would be mad if I had to defend wars.
Scott, you can respond.
We have a very simple goal: to keep terrorists and a terrorist regime from having a nuclear weapon that can threaten the United States, our interests in the region, our allies in Europe, anybody else in the world.
So you can't answer the question. Thank you. I would get mad too.
All right, we're going to leave it there, guys.
Hey there, I'm Harry Anton, and today.
Yeah, the war is not going the way that he wanted it to, by the way. Yeah, as Scott Jennings claimed I got in his face. Watch what actually happened in the full CNN segment. He throws a personal jab, then folds the second he gets pressed. Scott loves to dish it but can't take it. Yeah. They also had a private conversation as well, apparently, but I don't know if Adam has talked about it or not, so I'm not at liberty to discuss. But all I will say is this, okay? These guys, these reactionaries, they're all the same. You give a little bit of pushback to them, a fraction of what they do on a daily basis, and they fold, okay? They lose their dang minds. This is exactly the energy that we should be taking to our conversations. If you're doing a media appearance, if you have politicians, you should be if you're talking to politicians, if you're talking to them at their town halls, demand that they also behave in a similar manner. Fight back, because at the end of the day, they're weak. Their strength projection only comes from the fact that they are so used to dominating the discourse, dominating the field, bullying every liberal who just cowers away. And they're like, oh God, please don't say anything mean to me. I'm so sorry. I will concede ahead of time. I will give in to your demands. But the moment that you say, no, this is ridiculous, what concessions have we extracted from Iran? This war effort is not going in your way. This war effort is not taking shape in the way that you claimed it would 4 weeks ago. He loses his damn mind. There's opportunity here. Right-wingers are not used to this kind of pushback. So there's tremendous opportunity here. With a little bit of retaliation, you can reach maximum result. Just something to consider, something to remember.